Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche 935 and BMW M2 Multiclass. I'm your host Roy Waller and we are here in Kent at the Brands Hatch circuit for round 3 of our series as our 935 cars take to the track. We have our first few times coming up on the board as we speak. It is Balazs Fahey in the pink unicorn car, currently running up in provisional pole position. And we have now got, returning to the top, we have seen him for so much of this series, Mr. Rhys Tattersall, in that candy coloured car. And with Rhys taking the top of the standings, I think that is our perfect opportunity. Take a look at our GT2 935 standings, and it is of course Rhys Tattersall in the lead ahead of Matthew Parry and Balazs Fahey tied behind with their one drop round taken into account. Then in P4 we have got Ben Lopard currently tied with Jeremy Thomas and Sampa Potari. In P6 both Chris Wright and Irideus Partes in P7 joint on 80 points, with Thomas Pirello in P9 and Hef Martin in P10. Turning to the session live, it is still Rhys Tattersall out in front, and I suspect that 8 thousandths of a second lead is about to turn into something a little bit more substantive as Rhys Tattersall comes to cross the line the second time of asking, and there it is, a 1:24.865, some 7.5 tenths ahead of Matthew Parry. We're checking to see who else is putting in the times at the moment. We have Peltari P3 at the moment, 8.5 tenths off of our provisional pole sitter as Rhys Tattersall returns to the pit lane. Really feeling his efforts are no longer required in this qualifying session. We have Matthew Parry in P2 now, and jumped ahead of Balazs Fahey, who still resides in P4. In P5 is Jeremy Thomas, with Bjorn King in P6 at the moment. Ben Lopard, high up in the championship standings, currently down at P7 here at Brands Hatch. Needs to find a little bit more pace over the next couple of qualifying laps. As Riva Molina looking like they could find a substantial bit of time here. Might actually not be enough for position gain in the end though, as they were at some distance of a Ben Lopard. So P8 it remains. Molina. And then our series sponsor, Mr. Chris Simquips Wright himself, currently down in P11, being just jumped by Skapas and Sawyer. As Rhys Tattersall does return back to the track, still with that 7.5 tenths advantage to his name. As now there is Thomas Pirello jumps up into P8, sliding his way through Paddock Hill Bend and straight into the Armco on the inside. It's not often you see someone hitting that barrier. Nice for someone to give that a little bit of a kiss on their way past. As Chris Wright jumps his way up to P7, John Sawyer coming through the second sector now. As there is a car off the track up ahead, hopefully staying well off the circuit. As John Sawyer tears his way towards the final corner. I wonder if this will be a tricky turn for these cars. Loose on the rear at the best of the time. This final corner here at Brands Hatch with differing camber as the corner goes on. A very tricky corner. And John Sawyer jumping up ahead of Bjorn King, ahead of Chris Wright, finds himself in P7 for now. As things are close, and F. Martin, that livery seems to be working this race, and I don't think Chris Wright would be all too pleased with having his lap disrupted there. Was on for an improvement, could have seen him jumping a good number of positions there, with only 0.02 of a second required to get ahead of Jeremy Thomas. But we'll have one more attempt at a flying lap here at Brands Hatch. As the battle for the top three continues, Matthew Parry about to complete a lap should see an improvement to put him clear of Altari and Fay here behind, but Balazs coming towards the line might be challenging for P3, and he does. That is a 1:25.570. It puts him 1.5 tenths ahead of Peltari, now in P4 with the right to respond. Does have one more lap to his name. And it is our top three we will keep an eye on during these final turns of this Brands Hatch circuit. No one else looking like they're improving. 30 seconds till we will see our BMWs out on track. Matthew Parry looks to try and find a little bit more pace around here, but has over 0.6 of a second to find as Balazs Fay here. That looked like it was a little bit of a wide corner there. Going to be between Fay here and Peltari for that final, the optimal side of the front row as Balazs Fay giving it everything and more on this lap, getting the rear well and truly out. It certainly looks good. I'm not sure it's the fastest way to drive a race car around a circuit. As we head through the final corner towards the line. And in the end, not much of improvement at all. Can Peltari respond? Yeah, he gave it a good go. In the end, just 2.5 hundredths of a second separate Fay here and Peltari. They will be starting together on the second row of the grid. And the first of our BMWs, I believe, will be this car here, Slavek Klinger. That does look like a Porsche up ahead. We will go on board with number 666 car as we come through our final sector. On the outlap, we can take a quick look at the standings, and it is Wojciech Swoboda and Luke Tranmere who share joint P1 at the moment, with our one drop round being taken into account. And then Bromfield, a best of P2 to his name, in P3. Face Fuser in P4 with Jakub Borovic and Anthony Victor-Chappelle joint in 5th. We have Jules Flynn and Marco Lorenzon joint on 7th place. And Anton Kalaskan and Maya van Dijk joint on 9th. And as we dive into our first flying lap for BMW M2s, we just make our way through Paddock Hill Bend and into the tight hairpin that I can never remember the name of. Cinder Hill into Druids. Slight off camber turn, easy to be dragged off onto the grass on the outside. Can use plenty of that off track. We come into Surtees, climbing the hill. A blind exit of the burn. We have got a car up ahead on the outlap at the moment that kindly moves out the way, and Slavek Klinger can continue on their way into the GP circuit now. Let's go through and I can never remember the names of these corners. No, there's Dingledale. There's all sorts of names here. I can't remember which one's which though. It's looking like a tidy enough lap for Klinger so far. No sideways moments we were seeing for the 935s. Slightly more planted on the rear of these cars, all the way up front. But plenty of power oversteer there, as we see from Klinger as he gets on the low paddle down towards the line. And our first lap will be a 1:37.435 for Klinger, which is swiftly beaten by 2.5 tenths by Christopher Elberg. And now as we can see the quick times coming in. Lennon Bromfield with a 1:36.5, our provisional pole sitter so far, with Svoboda only down in P6 in class, 7 in class I should say now. So our championship leader, one of our championship leaders anyway, currently not at the sharp end. No, we do have Luke Tranmer out on track from the start of the session. Well, he's not going to be putting in a flying lap straight away. He did leave it to the last minute, last round out to put it on pole position. And, well, just testing the limits of grip there. And they are somewhat before the effort that he put in that time. As Jan Vitalo currently sitting in provisional pole position with a nice and tidy 1:35.985, some half a second clear of our next fastest driver in the TCX BMW M2 field. But we're seeing plenty of improvements come out. These cars do not perform their best coming out of the pits with no tyre warmers to speak of. These cars only get their temperature into the tyres as they put on a flying lap. As getting held up a little bit there is Vitalo. That's one of the Shell Oil cars out on track at the moment. As Vitalo improves in time again, now 6 tenths clear of the competition. And seeing improvements from a number of drivers. Christopher Elberg currently 2 tenths up on his previous best. As he climbs the hill, using plenty of the exit curb as we climb out the 30s. And down the long back straight into the start of the GP circuit. And oof, using a little bit too much of the track. Still valid somehow, but yeah, it's not going to count for much when the lap is that much slower out there. The old English grass there, like ice around this circuit. No grip out there whatsoever. As in P5 in class, we have Salonaho in the number 130 car. Also opting to use a little bit of the grass, not quite as much as we saw from Elberg, and on a decent lap at the moment. Previous one was a banker, and now on a flyer it does seem. As they get into the slipstream of Vitalo up ahead. Towards the line they will go for a second attempt at a lap, and this should be a marked improvement up to P2 for Salonaho. And we now have, I believe, 2 Finnish drivers in the top 2. So Finns being well represented here, as Luke Tranmer running the hazards at the moment, and indicators on. He's trying to find himself a little bit of room to start a flying lap, letting the world by. And Luke Tranmer will dive on to what will be one of probably only 2 attempts at a flying lap here. Hoping to pull something out. As our drivers seeming to be settling into what is their pace now. Not seeing many improvements coming out. As Luke Trammer on the first corner invalidates again. Well, we could see our race winner from last round out starting down in P37 if this continues. We'll have one more attempt if he has the fuel for it. As lead of the broadcasting team, Benjamin Odin Vedvik, currently down in P36, is some 7 seconds off the pace at the moment. I think we're going to let him get on with his lap. He needs a little bit of time to concentrate. Minsky was on a good lap and has since thrown it away. We have our top 2 also looking to improve. As Svoboda, currently P1 in the championship, sitting in P5 as it stands for tonight's grid, with Tranmere currently down in P37 with 1 lap to run. We will check in with Tranmere as they come on to what will be their final attempt at a flying lap into Paddock Hill Bend. Will he keep it within track limits this time? Yes, keeping it nice and safe this time. We're going to watch Luke Tranmere around and either cheer him on or give him an almighty commentator's curse. And it's still pushing, just about keeping it within track limits. As we come out, not looking like the tidiest of laps we've seen from Tranmere. Last time out, managed to get 1 lap out on Imola and put it on pole. Not sure if we're going to see a repeat here. As we come around through the second sector. As well, I think we missed that, but up in pole position, we've got Leonard Bromfield pulling it out at the last minute. Take pole ahead of Vitalo and Solonejo. As Luke Tranmere rounds, and into the pits. Luke Tranmere will be starting from the back of the grid. And there we have it. It will be Bromfield, Vitalo and Solaheno starting at the front of the BMW field. And we can take you through our starting order for tonight's race. On pole position, it is the candy-coloured car of Rhys Tattersall, the number 42, our current championship leader. We're starting alongside Matthew Parry in the Golf liveried car. In P3, the second row of the grid, it is the 369 of Balazs Fahir, an impossible car to miss, and I wonder if we'll see him at the front of his usual train. In P4, we have got Sampa Peltari with Arriva Molina in P5. P6 is Christopoulos Skapas, the 108. In P7, we have got Jeremy Thomas, starting alongside John Sawyer in P8. Bjorn King is in P9 in the red and black Sennheiser livery car, with our series sponsor Chris Simquip's Right starting in P10. Then Lopard is in P11 and will be starting alongside Thomas Pirello, with Fernandez Nitro in P13 and Jesper Swingley in P14. F. Martin with a fetching yellow livery, and I wonder if the oh dear on the door will come to mean something more later on in this race. And in P16 is Ansgar Morgel, 120 car. Carl Schromatsky is in P17 with Johannes Spinner, stealing Balazs's livery and currently running down in P18. And then we come to our BMW M2 TCX cars, and we have Lennon Bromfield in pole position in our Amazon delivery package BMW. He's starting alongside Jan Vltalo in P2. In P21 is Thomas Solonejo, that is P3 in the TCX class, with Mikhail Minsky in P22. In P23 and P5 in class is Wojciech Swoboda. We'll be starting alongside the number 301 Jakub Borovic, first of our double yellow racing cars. And then the second of the double yellow racing cars is Anthony Victor Chappelle. In P26 is Christopher Elberg, starting alongside another of the double yellow motorsport cars, Jules Flint. These three being so close together on track is going to get especially confusing, I fear. In P28 is Atta Kalaskan in the Splatoon 3 car. We then have Marco Lorenzon in P29. David Klinger is in P30 with Lolo Nitro in P31. With Frank de Moore in P32. In that also familiar Shrek livery, it is Alex Parry, who will be starting in P33 with Ben Beams in P34. Chipoda is in P35 in the Hello Kitty car, with Benjamin Odin Vedvik in doesn't look like a very safe car, it must be said. Felix Kramarik is in P37, and finally we have got Luke Trammer as we turn our attention to the front of the field, as Rhys Tattersall will lead us through the final corner onto the start-finish straight. We will await the green flag to get this race underway here at Brands Hatch. It is the odd-numbered cars on the grid who will have the inside line into Paddock Hill Bend, so it should be advantageous for them, as anyone getting washed wide on the outside has the gravel to contend with. And as the green flag waves, it is a good start from Tattersall, well ahead of Parry as we head into the first corner, with Balazs Fahir already taking out the bollards on the inside. As we descend the hill, climb up towards the hairpin, it is Tattersall ahead of Parry, Fahir, Molinar, Thomas, Skapas, Peltari, Lopard, Pirello and King. The start of our race, as down in the TCXs it is Vltalo who has made the move on Bromfield and got up into the lead of this race. Swoboda also up into P3, Solonejo down into P6 in class currently. Some way off of our leader. Not sure if we had an incident there for the 130 car. Not anything that I can see though. As we have cars out on the gravel behind. 2 by 2 they go. And Vitalo doing well as we have, I think is that Thomas Pirello? Having a little bit of a moment there. We check back in with the front of our field. And it is, oh, sorry, Ben Lopard, who is having a little bit of trouble there, dropped down now at the front of the Porsche field. But Jan Brutalo still leading in the TCX class. And we have battles up and down the field. Riva Molinar leading ahead of Jeremy Thomas and Peltari. This is the battle for P4. As we have an entire train of cars battling it out further down. As King and Mogul side by side as we come down into the GP circuit down the hill. And it's looking like King with the inside line will be able to hold on to the position. As we have plenty of close racing at the start of this race. With John Sawyer on the back of Hef Martin, with Chris Wright having dropped down to P12. Statistics, it's been a good start for Pirello, Nitro and Martin, all jumping up 4 positions at the start. Real losers from this race. King down 5, Lopard down 7. We're coming out onto the start-finish straight. And King and Mo will still side by side. Oh no, that's not King, and it's King getting past Swingley by the looks of things. So Bjorn King making his way up the field, down 4 positions at the moment. Has the pace to fight his way back through, it seems. As further up ahead, this is the battle for P4 continuing, and Jeremy Thomas has made the move up the inside of Riva Molina. It is P4 for Jeremy Thomas. As John Sawyer looking for a way past Hef Martin, looking to the outside, unlikely to find a way through there, needs to concentrate on his exit. Better chance looking up the inside at Dingled out. As Chris Wright also looking for a way through. Oh, and it is a big slide there from John Sawyer. Hef Martin also off the circuit. John Sawyer recovered from it slightly better, with Martin dropping down to P14. Not up to their race they would have wanted, with the window currently open for this race. As Martin and Lopar go side by side, Ben Lopar picking his way back through after what was a miserable start to this race, already back up into P14, making it past 4 cars already. As makes that 5 as Mogul goes off circuit, Ben Lopar up to P13. As we have also battling in our TCX class, as Minsky currently in E5, holding off Sonejo, Flint, Lorenzon and Chappelle. Christopher Elberg has made their way past Atakalaskan. That's the battle for P10. And drivers incredibly close together in this race. What's the fear? Sometimes at Brands Hatch you can see a little bit of field spread, as there's not any opportunities to go side by side, but this race is presenting ourselves a lot of opportunities for some battling. As Riva Molina, who's now dropped down to P6, with Peltari getting past as well, now finds himself under pressure from Skapas and Pirello, who are looking to make their way up the order. Peltari also bearing down on the back of Thomas, as Pirello going side by side with Skapas into turn 2, and that is move made for Thomas Pirello, clinically done. He looks to pick his way forward, keeping well in sight with the cars ahead as well. Could have his sights set all the way forward to P4 at the moment with how close this group is running. Then we do have a little bit of a gap forward up to Balazs Fahir in P3. Our top three in this race running away with it a little bit, although they do have 2 seconds between each other. Able to run quite comfortable races up there. As actually Victor Chappelle has made his way past Marco Lorenzon, that for P6 in the race, and we see Swoboda having dropped behind Borovic. What has happened to Swoboda there? P21 car, nothing that I can see, but looking like they're under pressure, having been overtaken by Borovic not long ago. Demore, Kalaskan going side by side as Kalaskan gets 2 wheels off onto the dirt. That is going to hurt their run all the way down this long back straight. Has Demore got their indicators on? No. I should just tap the brake on the long straight. That's slightly disconcerting. There's in the 935 class, it is still Altari who's leading this small group, as Jeremy Thomas gets 2 wheels out onto the dirt, and that is going to allow Pirello up into P5. Thomas Pirello having a blinder of a race. Now up 7 positions from where they started. Thomas Pirello may not have had the car under them in qualifying, but is going some now they've got the fuel on board. And Jeremy Thomas looking like they're struggling to control the rear of that car, possibly set up more for all-out pace during qualifying, is now paying the consequences. As we have first of our leaders diving into the pit lane, it is Reese Tattersall pitting from the lead of this race. I wonder if they were just catching on to the back of the BMW traffic. It does look that way, as we can see Matthew Parry now making his way past the first couple of cars. And you can see on that track map the chaos that he has in store for him in a couple of straights time. As Reuven Molinat continuing to hold off Skapas, keeping with Thomas up ahead, but Thomas Pirello has just made a little bit of a gap for himself. They come now onto the back straight. Reuven Molinat in the slipstream, not such an advantageous slipstream here in these 935 cars. They are slippery enough as it is, not much drag to speak of. As they wind their way through this GP circuit. Were almost nose to tail. As now they face the back marker traffic. This is going to be an exercise in traffic management, I think, for the next few laps. As they pick their way through. We can see how is our TCX field managing with this traffic, as Matthew Parry, I believe, has made his way past these few cars. To be honest, I have no idea what the colours represent on the map, if they represent anything at all. We can see that Balazs Fahir is beginning to bear down on this group of cars. Matthew Parry has dived into the pits, as we have got a car off circuit in the background. Oh, and that is... oh, not sure who that is. Is that... Eames? Nope. Is that... no, it's not Klinger. That is someone who is having a very bad day. And Not sure how it's... Okay, Soloneo has pitted from their place in the middle of this race. All sorts going on. So Soloneo, we will keep an eye on them. Some of the ECX class are now making their way into the pits. Lennon Bromfield hitting from what was, I believe, P2 in the race. As Marco Lorenzon and Chappelle go side by side into the hairpin. And Chappelle will have the inside in Druids as we come through the bottom of the hill. Still side by side they go. This is good racing between the pair of them. Marco Lorenzon just about keeping it ahead. As that is our race leader, Balazs Fahit, making his way through. There's the lead out on track, but bearing in mind these drivers do all have to take a mandatory pit stop with at least a 25-second refueling stop and take a tyre change for an extra 5 seconds in the pit lane if they so wish, but I suspect, as always, no one will. And then, as we back to middle of our pack, and at 17 minutes remaining, I wonder if more drivers have prematurely pulled the trigger on their pit stops, as they will certainly have to face the BMWs again unless they pit out of their way later on in the race. Got yellow flags out for the number 666 car. That is Slavik Klinger, who is on his way again. And through the pit stops, Skapas has not been able to lose. Actually, thought Pirello was ahead of Skapas earlier, so how long did they spend in the pits? Oh, okay, it does look like Pirello may have taken tyres. 32 seconds stopped in the pit lane. Skapas is 27. So Pirello on the fresher rubber at the moment, but will that pay dividends for them towards the end of this race? Did manage to clear Skapas quite quickly. It remains to be seen if they can pick their way back forward. Pirello now finds himself in what looks like net P3 of this race. But to be fair, Fahit still yet to pit, as Skapas getting all out of sorts coming out of Graham Hill Bend, sorry, Paddock Hill Bend. Pirello, so Skapas sliding all over the place. That car looking like an absolute handful to drive. We come through Surtees. Are we going to see another slide? Nope. Skapas keeping it together for now. As Vedvik and Flint side by side. Flint off the circuit. Reese Tattersall through. And race unimpeded for him. Reese Tattersall will be pleased to have made it past that pair of fighting back markers unscathed. We now have Skapas and Peltari together on circuit. Peltari, who was running a strong race earlier on, also with a long pit stop, 33 seconds stopped in the box. Not sure if they've taken fresh rubber. Not sure if these 935 cars eat tyres. I assume a fair few drivers out there opting to take a fresh set, as Peltari making short work, and that is, well, was one of the leaders in the BMW field, Lennon Bromfield. And what has happened there? As we come into Paddock Hill Bend. The contact, yep, there was contact, and they went round. They both went round. And that was heavy contact with the side of London Bromfield from Scapas. Damage to both of their cars and substantial damage to both of their chances of a decent result in this race. Bromfield now down into P26 overall, still the leader of those who have pitted in this race. As must be seen where will filter out. Has been stopped for 30 seconds now. Should get themselves underway again very shortly. 34 seconds stopped in the box as they now pull out of the pits. Did pit from the race lead. Where is Bromfield? Well, Bromfield is, as would have been imagined, nowhere to be seen after that incident. But still looks like potentially holding on to P2 in this race. You see our joint championship leader Luke Tranmer currently running down P22 overall, still yet to make their mandatory pit stop, trying to make hay while the sun shines, and they don't have anyone in front of them on track. And just noticed we have a drive-through penalty for one Mr. Ben Lopard. Can only imagine that was from speeding in the pit lane, or possibly too many truck cats out on track, so they will have to be diving into the pit lane before the end of this race to serve that penalty. As Tattersall re-inherits the lead. And we will keep an eye on this nervously as Vitale, our next race leader in the BMWs, has a stressful time of the Porsche field. Has now got a little bit of track to himself. As we now have battling between Sawyer, Scapas and Mogul. As Molinari and Swingley go flying off circuit. What happened there? Oh. Riva Molinari doing donuts out on the gravel. We didn't get to see the start of that incident, but well, we're sure to see the end of it. As Riva makes his way back on circuit, now under pressure from Swingley and King, as I think that was a slide there from Swingley. Don't think these drivers are having the best of times with these 935 cars around this Brands Hatch circuit. An awful lot of out of control cars. As we have two battles in the midfield of our TCX class. Lolo Nitro being followed by Arminsky. Behind we have Chappelle and Solaheno battling it out close together on circuit. And continuing battle towards the front of the field, battle over P5 between Peltari and Thomas. Also, we did see having some troubles with the rear of their car earlier in this race. Does seem to be being slightly better behaved at the moment. It does appear that both of these drivers could have taken new tyres in their pit stop. As our field starts to spread out a little bit here, we're seeing gaps of over a second through most of our field. Altari Thomas continuing to battle out. Chris Wright also making his way through, just over half a second off of Fillinez Nitro as we speak. gap actually coming down quite substantially as they make their way past some of the TCX traffic. We'll turn our attention back as Otari, and Thomas, I was going to say go side by side. They seem to go side into side as we make our way through. What on earth happened there? As we see Thomas well into the barrier. Well, we picked this one up earlier. A slight moment there for Otari as they go side by side, try and make their way past the BMWs. And there's the door-to-door contact, and there's Jeremy Thomas off in the gravel and now returning to the pit lane. Far too much damage on that car for the driver to continue. There's Ben Lopard his way past Mogul and Martin up into P13. Also have Kromansky not far behind this battle as well. And let's hope that this battle can resolve itself somewhat more cleanly. We have quite badly in our midfield in the TCXs as Chappelle trying to make their way around on Lolo Nitro. And Chappelle up into E8 in class. Just right, making his way through some of the BMW M2 traffic. Not far off of the back of Fillner's Nitro, but in making their way through has just lost about half a second. It is a real skill, traffic management in these multi-class races, and you have to weigh up a risk versus safety. It's all well and good gaining a couple of seconds, but if you're gonna lose parts of your car, not necessarily worth taking the risk. As Jeremy Thomas dropping way down the order, sitting in the pit lane, I suspect a multitude of repairs necessary for that car. As Otari made their way past Pirello. They were already ahead of Pirello. Oh, but wow, Otari looking at that car does not want to stay pointing in a straight line. And we've got a little bit of a train forming in our BMW TCX class as Alex Perry is not far ahead of Chappelle, Nitro, Solaheno, Arminsky and Elberg. This group of cars all quite close together on track as they on their way through the second sector, coming into the third sector now. That hideous Shrek head peering out from the back of that car. Absolutely haunting. As Elberg has made his way past Lola Nitro. As the TCX cars get well out of the way of Peltari picking their way through. As it's looking like a lot of these 935s having real problems through Paddock Hill Bend. I feel like the biggest danger to any one of these 935 drivers race is themselves just losing it on their own at this moment in time. As Lono Nitro well on the back of Christopher Elberg, pushing Elberg through the corner as they come down towards the next corner. Elberg defending the middle of the track. Nitro taking the inside, and a well executed move as not so well executed. Seems like there's cars off the circuit up ahead. Not sure who that is. Suspect they may have made it back on circuit. As we now have battling up ahead, we have got Thomas Solaheno side by side with Lono Nitro. That is Aminski up ahead, and Christopher Elberg also getting involved in this one, as that is some heavy damage to the front of Solaheno. Suspect that car is not going to be having quite the performance in a straight line with the amount of air that that bonnet is eating, or hood for any of you American listeners watching. As Christopher Elberg also makes his way past the limping, wounded car of Solaheno. We also have Fernandez Nitro and Chris Wright picking the way through this one. And Chris Wright, I think, getting a little bit caught out there, has not managed to make advantage of the traffic. Try and weave his way around the outside through the hairpin, and really you can see how they concertina up as they meet the back of the traffic. It's all about who can manage it the best, who can take the advantages. Chris Wright, not sure if there was contact there. It did look like he was giving Arminski a little bit of a hurry up as they went through the corner. And Solaheno makes his way back past Christopher Elberg. Both of those cars looking like they're carrying some damage. I suspect it's really going to be a foregone conclusion as they come down towards the next corner. That car of Solaheno, can't imagine has the straight line speed, but enough talent behind the wheel to keep Elberg at bay, though Elberg does have the inside line at the moment. I wonder if there's also more significant aero and suspension damage possible to the front of the car, looking at what a whack it seems to have taken earlier on. As Skapas getting onto the back of this battle, no way through for now, just has to be patient and wait as Skapas makes his way through. Luke Trammer finally diving into the pit lane. Will be on his way back out now. Has had a decent recovery drive, but not going to be where he would have wanted to finish this race. As Solaheno still managing to hold on ahead of Elberg. Elberg, who absolutely sends it into Paddock Hill Bend, up on the inside of Solaheno. Will have the inside for the hairpin. Solaheno going to try and carry the speed around, but the much shorter line there for Elberg does manage to hold on to the position. Good battling here with Arminski just up ahead. I think this could be getting even more interesting as we are in the final moments of this race. We'll have one more lap as Reese Tattersall does just cross the line to go on to the final lap of this race. We'll have Ben Lopard bearing down on Riva Molinar. Looks to the outside as we head into the GP circuit. We can see that battle between Arminski, Solaheno and Elberg up ahead. And Lopard, oh, well, that is sloppy from Ben Lopard. Was boxed in behind the TCXs, and so that is just a reality of multi-class racing. Sometimes you get boxed in and you should just wait. But Ben Lopard commits a little bit of a murder. We also have Luke Trammer now bearing down on Alex Perry, looking to the inside, banging doors all the way down the start finish straight. They head towards Paddock Hill Bend. Alex Perry trying to close off the line for Luke Trammer. They descend the hill. We've got yellow flags out for the 666 car of Linger. I'm not sure what that's for, but that car looking like it's heavily embedded itself in the wall. But we must turn our attention to our race leader. He is led from lights to flag. Reese Tattersall takes the win at Brands Hatch. There's a dominant display. 5 seconds to get back to Matthew Parry, who will take the silver medal, the second step of the podium. And to round out the podium will be Balazs Fehi finishing P3. Another podium for Fehi. Lampa Peltari finishes P4 ahead of Thomas Pirello, who finishes P5. And then we can turn our attention to the TCX class, where Jan Vitalo will take the win here at Brands Hatch. Had to fight for it off the line, but held on to it for the rest of the race. Svoboda will take P2, with Jakub Borovic taking P3. Lennon Bromfield, after that unfortunate incident earlier on in the race, takes P4, with Marco Lorenzon bringing it home in P5. Now, many congratulations to our class winners and podium sitters in this race. It was a very enjoyable race to watch. And as our drivers return to the pit lane, it just remains to me to say thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed our broadcast tonight, please do remember to like and subscribe. It really does help us out. And do check out the pitskill.io Twitch and YouTube channels. Details can be found on pitskill.io, which is linked down in the description below. Check out the referral link down there where you can get yourself signed up to any of our races throughout the week. And do check their Twitch and YouTube channels, where on Wednesday we will have the GT3 Elite Series, our flagship series. They can do Brands Hatch with the best of the best. Battle it out for you live on stream. And then next week, tune in right here, same time next week, where the Porsche 935 and BMW M2 Multiclass will be heading to Zandvoort. Until then, have a very lovely rest of your day, and I will leave you with the highlights from tonight's race. Thank you very much. Goodbye.